Welcome back to another awesome video.
Today we're going to set up a simple do-it-yourself outdoor audio system for our back porch. We're going to reuse this old intercom panel here, which will allow local volume control and also be a convenient location to receive a Bluetooth signal from a nearby phone. First, let's talk about all the equipment we're going to be using on this project. We have some things you might recognize like the speakers and speaker wire and power supply, but the heart of the project is this. This is the Arylic Up2Stream 2.1 amplifier board. It's from their DIY audio line of products, and it will power 2 stereo speakers and a subwoofer, and it can connect to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and do all sorts of fun streaming stuff. As we showed in a previous video, we've been slowly updating our 1980s intercom in our newly purchased house to use these intercom stations for new purposes. With this particular one, we have easy access to the space above. So the first thing we're going to do is run a bunch of wires. You ready?
Yes.
So I've got a lot of wires I'm going to pull up in this hole. I've got speaker, power, and Ethernet. Now I really don't need Ethernet because it does have Wi-Fi, but I've got the extra wire and I've got an unobstructed path to the wiring closet, so why not? If I can run it wired, I'm going to do it. The next step was installing the Polk RC60i ceiling speakers. After checking the space above for obstructions, I drew a circle using the included mounting template and cut a hole in the ceiling with a drill and jigsaw. Surprisingly, this was the quickest and easiest part of this project. Next, it was time to try and reuse this existing intercom wall plate. First, I removed all the old intercom parts and then spray painted it. Then I drilled some additional holes for the amplifier board controls. I also added this power switch. I would say while the result looks acceptable and better than the old weathered non-functioning intercom box, there are some things I might do differently if I did this again.
Like labels.
Yeah. So here's just some things that are like pet peeves or comments about this installation. The Arylic board does not come with very much thread on the knobs. The rotary encoders, potentiometers, whatever. This switch has a large amount of thread, but these don't have any. I couldn't get the bolts on, but everything is so tightly packed in here, and I ended up doing some twist ties and other stuff to make it actually fit. But another thing I would suggest is check the depth in your wall. This goes all the way back to the other wall, and so I had to bend the network cable, make sure I use that right angle power cable. So it takes up a decent amount of depth. The box for the intercom is not wide enough to accommodate the Arylic device, so I ended up mounting it on the back of this plate. So there's nothing for this to screw into. So what I've done is taken some of these tabs out of a box that pull on the sheetrock or whatever. But if I had it to do over, I would probably not use the one with the knobs already, maybe mount it in there and inside the box and solder my own controls on there. So that's the install. I'd say total, maybe this took 3 to 4 hours, but I did it across 2 days. The longest part was actually working with this intercom plate, and the cost for me for this whole project was under $200. But keep in mind, I was able to get the speakers at a heavy discount, and I already had the power brick.
Yeah, you got those off of Goodwill.
Yep. Sounds great. I ended up positioning the speakers so the couch is right in the middle so you get a stereo effect, but they're also back from the wall a few feet so they're not blasting the chairs on the edge. The Polk speakers have adjustable tweeters so you can angle them towards the listening position. So it controls the volume. So anyway, this sounds pretty good, don't you think? Mm-hmm. It is nice to be able to have a real physical control that you can just walk up to and quickly adjust the volume, treble and bass, and of course they're synced up with the app too. This amp is actually the third piece of Arylic equipment I own. Back in 2022 I bought an S50 Pro Plus and a mini preamp. And one really cool thing about this Arylic stuff, you know what you can do?
Is you can sync it.
Yes, multi-room playback. It's really easy. What you do is you start one device playing and then you just create a group. Okay, so we've got something playing right now on the patio, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the group function.
Wait, up.
And then I'm going to just add the office. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what it'll do is it'll sync everything up. So now, in theory, this same song is playing on both devices in perfect synchronization. Let's try it. Let's take the camera inside real quick. So here I am on my home stereo, which my Arylic in here is part of the group. We go back on the patio. And both devices are playing the same thing. Cool, huh? You could do this with Bluetooth. This thing even has analog inputs, so I could hook up tape deck, turntable, reel to reel, and just broadcast it throughout my house. So there's a couple of enhancements we did to this project immediately after completing it. One is we added these things to the attic to prevent both dust from getting on the speaker and a lot of audio from reflecting back up into the attic. We'll play a short clip before and after we put these on, same track, same volume, to see if it makes an audio difference. But I've also got this old subwoofer just sitting here. It's been sitting in the attic doing nothing. I'm just going to hook it up to the subwoofer output in the attic and see if it makes a difference. So I can definitely tell a difference with the subwoofer, can't you?
I think so, yeah.
More so than the box. It's also worth noting that these treble and bass controls, if you hold it in for 5 seconds, it also is a crossover frequency setting, so I can adjust the crossover frequency for the subwoofer. There are several alternative approaches to an outdoor sound system you could use, the cheapest being just run wire back to a traditional receiver in the house. You could also do synced up Bluetooth receivers, but all those things require some type of setup, whether you got to have an app or something. I also considered a standalone touchscreen amplifier for Monoprice, but it was more expensive and it doesn't have subwoofer out or multi-room. The nice thing about this system is it's self-contained and it's easy to use on the spur of the moment. When you're outside, it remembers that it was on Bluetooth. You just flip the power switch and go for it. In my opinion, the Arylic system does really well in terms of sound quality and hardware quality. I also like having the multi-room feature. And after the initial purchase, there are no user counts required, logins, or subscription fees for the Arylic platform. The one negative in my view is the Arylic user interface. The web user interface that's accessible from the device's IP address is kind of buggy. The phone application for Stream is functional but not wonderful. It gets the job done. But over time they removed a feature I like to use, the ability to update a preset to a local playlist. The device has presets, and if you have the remote or you add buttons, you can go quickly to a preset. So I keep an old version of the Android app installed on an old Android phone in case I ever need to update my presets. Normally these types of UI issues would be a problem, but the UI does not matter if you think of this system as a receiver of content that you push from elsewhere. But what I do is I use Foobar 2000. I use this custom virtual cassette deck skin, which I showed in another video, on Foobar 2000, and I can simply change the output device within Foobar 2000 from my PC sound card to one of the Arylic devices on the network, and it works great. Anyway, it's about time I stop rambling on and we end the video. That's about it, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time for another awesome video.
Bye.